stop staring at that spicy squid snack in your hand. If time were rewound 470 million years, it's not so certain who would be eating whom. Back during the Ordovician period, Earth's oceans were ruled by a creature that looked like something engineered rather than evolved. It was called Orthoceras. Imagine an enormous living cone drifting through ancient seas. Some species may have reached lengths of several meters, towering over almost every other animal of their time. In an age before sharks, before giant marine reptiles, and before fish became dominant, Orthoceras was one of the first true rulers of the ocean. Most creatures around it were small, slow, and defenseless. Orthoceras was different. Its long shell was more than armor. Inside were dozens of chambers connected by a biological tube called a siphuncle. By adjusting gas and liquid within these chambers, it could control its buoyancy, much like a submarine. While other animals crawled along the seafloor, Orthoceras could move through different levels of the water column, hunting from above or below. For ancient prey, there was almost nowhere to hide. At the front of this armored giant were powerful tentacles and a sharp beak, capable of gripping and tearing soft-bodied animals. Combined with large eyes and an advanced nervous system for its era, Orthoceras became one of the most effective predators the ancient seas had ever seen. For millions of years, this strategy worked. But evolution has a habit of turning advantages into weaknesses. The same shell that protected Orthoceras also limited it. Its body was built for stability rather than agility. Quick turns were difficult. Sudden changes in direction required time. Compared with later predators, it was more like a massive cruiser than a fighter jet. As long as its prey was slow, that wasn't a problem. Then the oceans changed. New predators appeared. Agile sea scorpions entered the food chain. Early fish became faster and more maneuverable. Ocean ecosystems grew increasingly competitive. Suddenly, speed mattered. The ancient strategy of overwhelming size and armor was no longer enough. Smaller animals could dodge attacks. Competitors could reach food sources first. Predators that relied on quick reactions began gaining the upper hand. Orthoceras still possessed impressive defenses, but defense alone rarely guarantees survival. At the same time, environmental conditions were shifting. Sea levels changed. Habitats were altered. Food chains became more complex. The giant hunter that had once dominated ancient waters found itself struggling to keep pace with a world that was evolving around it. Eventually, Orthoceras disappeared. It was not defeated by a single enemy. It was defeated by change itself. And that may be the most important lesson hidden in its story. When we think about evolution, we often imagine survival belonging to the strongest. But the history of life tells a different story. Again and again, the winners are not the largest, the fastest, or the most heavily armored. They are the ones most capable of adapting. The descendants of creatures like Orthoceras learned that lesson well. Over hundreds of millions of years, many cephalopods reduced or abandoned their heavy shells. Some evolved lighter internal supports, others discarded shells entirely. Freed from their ancient burden, they became faster, smarter, and more flexible. Those descendants are still with us today. Squids, cuttlefish, and perhaps most impressively, octopuses. Instead of relying on armor, they rely on intelligence. Instead of carrying a giant shell, they use camouflage, problem-solving, and remarkable adaptability. In a way, their success began when their ancestors stopped trying to be fortresses. The story of Orthoceras reminds us that survival is rarely about holding on to what once made you powerful. Sometimes, survival requires letting go. So the next time you look at a piece of grilled squid or a bag of squid snacks, remember this. Its distant ancestors once ruled the oceans like living warships. But the true winners were not the giants that carried the heaviest armor. They were the descendants willing to abandon it and evolve with a changing world.